mulberry tree, apple tree. That's orchard expansion that way. This is sort of the northeast corner of the orchard. Apple tree that's loaded. Apple tree in the background also loaded. Fallen apple tree right here. No fruit. Tree's fallen over this way, and it's just put up a ton of water sprouts every year. But I'm gonna get in there and clean that up at some point. But I'd love to just kind of clean all this out and have these 3 trees as part of a really nice paddock. And I might even be able to get like 4 paddocks out of it, you know, like an apple tree for each one. But, and I forgot there's another apple tree behind this one. I'll go around and see. There's also an autumn olive shrub over there that's about 10 feet tall and loaded with berries. They're not ripe yet. I was kind of getting in there the other day, and there's a raspberry bush in there that's loaded. And they look actually ripe. I would just fence the whole thing in and set the chickens into it, but I have no idea if anything lives here. So of course I don't want to lock them in with a fox or something like that, or a possum. You know, I don't know where their dens would be, but I would love to have the chickens just clean all this out so that you can see underneath there, and then I can get in there and start cutting out these lower dead branches, open it up. There's a giant poison oak vine that's worked its way up that tree. Get in there and cut that at the base, get rid of that. Maybe I could bring in the geese over here too. There's a pokeweed. There's a beautiful black locust there, which I'd probably save. I might even coppice it, so cut it really low to the ground so that it comes up with more of a bush kind of habit. It doesn't look too thorny for a black locust. I always kind of watch and look for ones that seem more or less thorny. There actually are cultivars of black locust. They're not very easy to find, but there are. So this is the north side. There's apples in this tree, a handful. But you know, just clean all that out, and then the chickens could climb all over those logs. Like, I think it would provide an awful lot of enrichment for them. But I'm gonna get a pole saw and come in here and just start cutting out a lot of this dead stuff, or just stuff that needs to be thinned, stuff that's been in the shade too long. This apple tree is pretty much only alive on the south side. I mean, there's little apples up here, so it can be saved, but it needs a rejuvenating pruning to help clean it up. Here we are around the back of it, but you know, just cut a nice path through there, and I'm pretty sure I could get either 1 giant paddock or 4 smaller paddocks. And I just think it would be great for the birds. Instead of continuing to move them that way just yet, I may work them over here. Or I may go that way a little bit longer in June and July, and then in August, when it's just mercilessly hot, bring them over here when the shade will be super beneficial. And you know, these apple trees were planted by my wife's grandfather, and the records of what they are long gone. So I have no idea about the varieties, no idea where he got them from. Some of them look kind of early ripening. There's already starting to get a blush on some of the one in the bachelor pad. But anyhow, fruit drop would be an important part of what I want to do, because every year my goal is to decrease our feed purchase and increase our own feed and forage generated here on the farm. Here's a not a black locust, but a honey locust over here that I found. It's kind of coming over. The reason I like locusts is because they tend to fix nitrogen in the soil. Though there's some debate about that with honey locust, but I think it's pretty well established with black locust. This one has been fighting with wild honeysuckle, and I love how it's kind of vined its way around this tree. And I know this one's a honey locust because I've grown them before. I've grown a supposedly thornless cultivar at home, which turned out to be incredibly thorny, but you'll spot their thorns. They're pretty distinct. This is another one though. It's interesting. These thorns are quite small for a tree this size. My quote-unquote thornless cultivar at home has... sorry, heard something back there. We've definitely got a lot of wild turkeys here on the farm. Anyhow, my quote-unquote thornless honey locust cultivar at home, I'm just going to have to bring down because it is loaded with thorns. But those thorns are, you know, 4 or 5 inches, and they also have additional thorns out the side. They look like almost like a trident. Compared to those, this wild honey locust that I found out here, these thorns are quite mild. There's a little example of what I mean when I say they got the second spurs that come out. Sorry, so there's the big one, and then there's one there, and a little one there. The ones at my house look enormous. I'll try and get a video of that. But anyhow, cut this dead stuff out. I don't know, I know that this would be a really, really great area as part of the orchard for the birds. And of course, eventually, my hope and my aim is to turn this back into an orchard and just turn it into a series of paddocks that we rotate our birds throughout the year. There's more nut trees that way. There's lots of pecans and walnut, which I'm not sure the chickens or the waterfowl enjoy, but I am thinking about planting some hazelnuts because I know that those are supposed to be enjoyable, and some different oak tree cultivars, some that are known for maybe milder, lower tannin acorns, which would be fun as well. This is that autumn olive bush or autumnberry, I think they're now being called, tree, or shrub. What I was saying is, I mean, it is loaded with berries. And I know this is considered an invasive weed in a lot of places, and it can really put the hurt on native species. But one of the things, I just think there's something kind of magical about this plant. The underside, the leaves are silver. I mean, and I don't know if the camera captures it, but they truly have a metallic shine to them, or sheen, and I think it's gorgeous. And then the berries look like, you know, little bronze bundles of grapes. Now they'll ripen up, and at least the ones at our house, we have 2 cultivars at our house in town. One is an amber, and one is a red. And I have no idea what these will be. This one's wild, so I don't know if they're going to be red or if they're going to stay this kind of amber gold color. So it'll be fun to see. But anyhow, there's a little bit of an update and a little walk through this patch right here. You know, these apple trees are healthy. Well, they're alive and they're doing their best. I think that bringing in the birds would help revivify them and add some manure, add a little bit of activity, stimulate the roots, and I know the chickens would enjoy the work. You know, they're doing fine. They go into these paddocks, but the whole point of having the chickens is to help rejuvenate the land and to generate eggs while we're doing that. And also, of course, for their companionship and their well-being. But they've been in this paddock for maybe, what's today, the 8th or the 9th, so they moved in just before the 1st, so they've been here for almost 2 weeks. On the 14th, I'll move them next, and I'm moving them on a 2-week rotation here because it's just me. That may be too long, but that's what we're able to do right now. But, you know, do they go that way another 40 feet? Do they come down here another 40 feet? Or do they come this way 40 feet and, you know, clean out around that telephone pole there, or power pole, which I need to cut that poison ivy there, or oak. I honestly don't know the difference. Forgive my ignorance. This actual poison ivy, though, this vine is pretty clever. I came over here with the machete and I was going to chop it weeks ago, but it has cleverly set itself up behind the main pole. So, and there's a plate in there. So to get at it, I've got to come back with weed whack way down here and then see where I can get to it. But, you know, it didn't come on this side or that side. It got behind the pole and the conduit there where it's a little safer. Clever nature. And here is that apple tree that's fallen over. I think it started over there. I'm not sure where the trunk is, but it's fallen over. It's been fallen over for years. I remember seeing this 2 or 3 years ago. somewhere in there is the trunk, but you see how it's come over and it's just all vertical growth. It's just all water sprouts. And I think that I can get in there and start to groom it and prune it and actually turn it into a really cool tree that is still productive and pretty entertaining for the livestock to come through. I think they would enjoy it. And then there's like a hackberry in there. That'd probably come out. It's a little too crowded in there for another tree of that size. So I take out the hackberry, and I see some wild grape there. Now whether or not it's productive is another thing. That bark on this right here makes me think this is some kind of cherry or plum or something. I mean, this looks like some kind of stone fruit to me. I'm not sure about the leaves. It looks, gosh, it really looks like, makes me think of like a plum or something. But anyhow, I don't know. So there's an update on this quadrant of the garden. So here you got a nice tour of the before. I really think that in time the after is really going to be pretty impressive. So thanks for watching, and feel free to follow along. We're on Instagram and YouTube at broadshouldersfarm.com. Don't go to the website. I hardly ever update the website. Excuse me. Just stick to the Instagram handles and whatnot. All right, bye-bye. We're also on Facebook.